I now call on Paul Martin to speak to and move Amendment 3849.2. 9 minutes.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can I say from the outset that we have made it clear in our motion that whilst we note the contents of this document, and particularly in its reference to the projects that were delivered during the Labour years, and we recognise that, and I'll come on to them in a moment. But what we must do is express our dismay that after 18 months of review, that this government has provided very little vision and leadership when considering how best do we tackle antisocial behaviour in our communities throughout Scotland. Presiding Officer, of course we want to prevent antisocial behaviour. That's why in government we don't just talk a good game, we put the money on the table for our local authorities in Scotland to spend it on specific projects. That's why Youth Build was introduced, that's why Clean Glasgow was introduced, and Minister, that is why Twilight Basketball was introduced during the Labour years, an excellent project which is also operated within my own constituency and other constituencies throughout Scotland. So I can say that we delivered. We didn't, I'll take an intervention in a moment, we didn't during those years hide behind the so-called historical concordat. We took a direct interest in ensuring that the diversion activities were in fact in place. But what is invisible in this document is any reference to the fact that sometimes we have to use the legal remedies to give our communities respite from those individuals who blight our communities. We should make no excuses for taking those actions. It's all very well, Presiding Officer, from the comfort zone of this chamber to talk a good game about prevention, integration and all of the other buzzwords that are referred to in this document. Launch the nice glossy documents with the carefully orchestrated photographs, but it's when you have to, when you live in that community that doesn't benefit, doesn't benefit from that comfort zone. When you live in Black Hill, I'm afraid you don't have that comfort zone, Presiding Officer. That areas and those other areas that are blighted by antisocial behaviour, you look to your local politicians to be on your side, and maybe Mr Thompson wants to answer that point.
Dave Thompson.
I thank the member for taking the intervention. He mentioned basketball introduced by the Labour government. I wonder if he condemns, therefore, Andrew McIntosh, his Scottish Labour Party candidate in Inverness West by-election, who says that basketball is a gimmick.
Paul Martin. Too many people, including this government, are quick to make excuses for the tiny minority who perpetrate antisocial behaviour. But it's such a pity that such haste is not afforded to the majority of people in our communities who want politicians to generally understand their plight and not patronise them with warm words and glossy documents and the warm words that we've heard in this chamber on many occasions. What we want is our communities to be safer and stronger. We want them to also feel confident when they report antisocial behaviour in their communities. We want them to feel reassured that we will follow through their concerns in a concise and a concentrated manner. By taking action where appropriate, we also want to give them the power to be able to take action in their local communities. That's why today, Presiding Officer, that's why today, Presiding Officer, we are proposing that our communities should be able to apply directly for an antisocial behaviour order. After all, it is our communities who are best placed to stand up to the unacceptable behaviour they find in their local communities and should be empowered to take that action. I'll take a very brief intervention from Robert Brown.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful to Paul Martin for that. I wonder, however, if Paul Martin understands that the objection that some people have to the approach he's laying out is not the emphasis on legal remedies, important though they are, but the failure to actually put an emphasis on dealing with the causes of the problem in the first place. That's really the problem that we have with the Labour position on these matters.
Presiding Officer, on these benches, we made it clear we want to do both. Presiding Officer, it's a pity that the parties opposite don't want to do that. And we call on the Government to consider a proposal that constituted community groups could be given the power to apply for antisocial behaviour orders. All too often, our communities have to depend on others to take forward their concerns. This proposal would provide a creative opportunity to give communities a real say in making their community a safer place to live in. Now, can I put it on record once again, Presiding Officer, the Scottish Labour Party have said on so many occasions that the perpetrators of antisocial behaviour are not all young people. I've seen the CCTV images that confirm that when we considered a dispersal order in my own constituency. So it's not all young people. And evidence provides a number of age profiles in respect to the perpetrators of antisocial behaviour. But we can't move away from the fact, Presiding Officer, that also young people are victims of antisocial behaviour. And there are that tiny minority of young people who perpetrate that antisocial behaviour. Now, what we can't move away from, and I welcome the Minister's commitment to dealing with the issue of greater parental responsibility, something that we should not avoid in this chamber. The lack of concern shown by a minority of parents who simply fail to take responsibility for their children's actions. Many of the young people involved in unacceptable behaviour, I believe, on many occasions are influenced by their parents who lack parenting skills. All too often, I hear from police officers who report that when returning children to their home, the parents are more concerned about missing an episode of EastEnders and the football than being concerned about their children's responsibilities and their responsibilities. Presiding Officer, it is not a God-given right to be a parent. It is something that should be valued, and it's something in this chamber we should ensure is amplified on a number of occasions. But we do accept that sometimes families face difficulties and they need to be supported. That's why in the Anti-Social Behaviour Act we introduced parenting orders. Parenting orders provided a number of opportunities to highlight a number of concerns that are raised. I'll take a very brief intervention from John Lamb.
How many parenting orders have been issued?
Exactly the point I've come on to, and I'm glad that you've raised that issue, Presiding Officer. And can I just clarify the opportunities that parenting orders actually provide? They provide an opportunity to ensure that the young person is attending school. It provides an opportunity to ensure that they're completing their homework. And an issue that's raised with us on a number of occasions is that they are home during certain hours at night and are supervised properly. Presiding Officer, anecdotal evidence will confirm to anybody who is committed to attending local community organisations is the concern of many communities that young people remain unsupervised to many late hours in the evening. That is unacceptable, and we should take action in the form of parenting orders to deal with what is seen as a positive intervention. We should look at the parenting orders as a positive intervention. Mr Lamont, and Presiding Officer through you, Mr Lamont, the point why doesn't local authorities implement parenting orders is what I refer to as the database of excuses. If you're not the officer who lives in the community blighted by antisocial behaviour, then it's not your problem. And, Presiding Officer, when I hear the Government also refer to the cost of implementing antisocial behaviour orders for under-16s, which I'm sure Mr Fergus Ewing will want to come on to later, I also want to refer him to the cost of repairing my constituent's car, who spoke out against antisocial behaviour and found that battery acid was poured over her vehicle. And there are many stories such as that throughout Scotland. Or the bus company who had to pay for 8,000 windows to be repaired at a cost of £1 million per year. Or Dundee City Council who had to pay out over £800,000 in vandalism repairs. Those are the costs to other people. And what I've got to say is we should ensure that we stand up for those communities, for them not to be left on their own by this Government. And we will be on the side of the majority of constituents throughout Scotland. We will ensure that those... I'll take a brief intervention from the Minister.
I mean, is Mr Martin saying that had ASBO's been served on the individuals involved, that behaviour wouldn't have arisen?
Paul Martin.
Presiding Officer, we want to stand up to unacceptable behaviour. We will not make an excuse for the tiny minority. We will ensure that all of the opportunities are provided to them, but we will stand up to that tiny minority, and not all young people. Anybody who commits antisocial behaviour should be challenged for unacceptable behaviour, and we will not make excuses for the tiny minority. As I said, Presiding Officer, the majority of those in our communities want to live a constructive and peaceful lifestyle. We should encourage them to continue to do so, and they should be aware of the fact that for those who cross the line, we will take action to ensure that that's dealt with. Presiding Officer, I call on the Parliament, the Chamber, to support the motion in my name.